been about 40 years, probably more, that I've been in the scripture, and there's people longer and people more astute. But what is the overall theme of scripture? What would you say? And is it the creation? Is it the flood? Is it the end of times in Revelation? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes, the law? Is it the Messiah? Is it Jesus? Is it the victory? It takes some thinking. But I would suggest that the central theme of everything we read in Scripture, as hard as this might be to believe, is love. I think it's love. And I think it is God's unconditional, selfless, sacrificial, insufferable love. And God's love is manifested first, and then God's love through his Son for the world is manifested next. And, I know there are a lot of stories that don't seem like they're about love in the scripture, especially the Old Testament. We read things about like hell, and we read things about like the Old Testament prophet who sent the she-bears down to kill the quote-unquote children because they mocked him for being bald. And all these different stories, I get it. They're really difficult to see as expressions of love. But if we go back to the grand narrative, you remember that God is love, and he is giving free will choice to people. And in that, he has to act in and through ways that are in harmony with their free will. If he was a despotic, unloving God, he would force things to occur. But instead, he lets us pick and choose, and we create messes for ourselves. But if you go to the very beginning, he created a wonderful, beautiful world for us. And he created us right. That's out of love. And he gave us life. And then he gave his Son. And then he gives forgiveness of all sin because of his Son. And then he fairly and rightly gives a relationship to any who seek it. All of that is done in and through love. What his Son did for us is love. And so if you just try to see the scripture through this lens of what God, who is love, is doing in a world that gets so messed up because of the free will of man, his creations, and yet he persistently gives and forgives and loves and acts, I think you'll have a better view of scripture than to try to say it's all about holiness or obedience or righteousness. It is God loving the world so much he gave us his Son and saved us from ourselves, and then freely gives us the example, the opportunity to receive his gift openly or not. And I think that view is probably a better summation of scripture than most others. Love ya. Have a good week.